1943, England. The United States 8th Air Force was establishing its brutal presence over Europe. Their weapon of choice was the B-17 Flying Fortress, a 4-engine heavy bomber designed to drop bombs with unprecedented accuracy, defended by a bristling array of 13 machine guns. Its name promised invincibility. But the reality of combat was far different. The American doctrine relied on daylight, high-altitude precision bombing, flying without fighter escort deep into the German Reich. This left the young, fresh-faced crews, pilots, navigators, bombardiers, and gunners vulnerable to the relentless German Flak and the elite fighter pilots of the Luftwaffe. The bomber units, like the famous 100th Bomb Group, nicknamed the Bloody Hundredth for their devastating losses, faced a cruel reality. The chances of surviving the required 25 missions to go home were perilously low. The air war over Europe became a continuous, high-altitude battle of attrition. This is the story of the 10 young men inside the aluminum shell of the B-17, who faced paralyzing, cold, sudden death, and the daily terror of flying into the heart of the storm. Life inside the B-17 at 25,000 feet was a study in contrasts. High-tech aviation mixed with extreme physical suffering. The temperature inside the unheated fuselage often dropped to around 50 degrees. Circle text. Satzisis, 58 heat circle text, Fader. Gunners wore electrically heated suits to survive, yet frostbite was common. The most constant threat was not the enemy fighter, but Flak, heavy anti-aircraft artillery. German gunners created dense, black clouds of exploding metal shrapnel designed to tear the planes apart. Unlike a fighter, which could be seen and fought, the Flak was unseen, sudden, and inescapable. The bombers flew in tight combat boxes, a defensive formation where the concentrated fire of hundreds of machine guns provided mutual protection. However, the tight flying required made the formation itself a bigger target for the German defense. In the disastrous raids of late 1943, like the second Schweinfurt mission, the bombers suffered their worst losses. Entire formations were annihilated. It became horrifyingly clear that the B-17, no matter how tough, could not win alone. The German response was ferocious. The Luftwaffe pilots flew the superb Messerschmitt Me 109 and the heavily armed Focke-Wulf FW-190. They developed tactics specifically designed to break the B-17 formations. The head-on attack. German fighters discovered the B-17's weakest point was its nose, which lacked heavy machine gun coverage in early models. The fighters would tear through the formation head-on at closing speeds over 600 miles per hour, giving the American crew less than 5 seconds to react. The crews, the ball turret gunner, the tail gunner, the radio operator, were all isolated in their aluminum cocoons. A direct hit meant instant fire, loss of air pressure, and a plummeting spiral into the German landscape. The decision to bail out was often a choice between fire, freezing to death, or capture. The psychological toll was immense. For the crews of the Bloody Hundredth, every mission deepened the dread. They were flying on borrowed time, praying their plane's legendary toughness would hold up, waiting for the one factor that would finally change the balance of power. The breaking point came in early 1944. The solution was the long-range escort fighter, the P-51 Mustang. With the Mustang able to accompany the bombers all the way to Berlin and back, the mission profile completely changed. The Mustang's job was to hunt the Luftwaffe, forcing the German fighter pilots to engage the escort instead of the bombers. This shift, from a defensive air war to an offensive one, saved the 8th Air Force. The B-17 crews, previously terrified to leave the protection of the formation, now flew with a powerful shield. The German forces could not replace their pilots as quickly as the Americans could build Mustangs. The air superiority achieved in the skies by the spring of 1944 was a direct result of the B-17 crew's stubborn courage in holding the line until the P-51 could get there. The ability of the B-17 to drop its massive bomb payload and return, even when catastrophically damaged, became the legend that won the strategic bombing campaign. The story of the All-American, a B-17 that flew home with its tail nearly severed by a mid-air collision, symbolized this incredible endurance. The B-17 Flying Fortress dropped more bombs than any other American aircraft in WWII, but its true legacy lies with the young men who flew it. For them, surviving 25 missions was the completion of a terrifying contract with death. The heavy bomber campaign was a brutal necessity, paving the way for the D-Day invasion by crushing German industry and neutralizing the Luftwaffe. The airmen of the 8th Air Force, particularly those of the bloody Hundredth, paid a terrible price. Their courage, their resilience, and the sheer toughness of their flying fortresses secured the sky, ensuring that the Allies could ultimately win the war on the ground.